Do you wish you could quit teaching and start working from home so you could spend more time with your babies? Are you tired of scouring the internet for legit jobs that will replace your teaching income and that you can do from home in your PJs? Hey mama, welcome to Ditch the Classroom. I know you're over there Googling jobs for teachers, legit work at home jobs, or start a side hustle, yet you can't figure out how to take that first step toward quitting teaching. So instead, you stay stuck, do nothing, or start random side hustles to make quick money. Virtual assistance is the answered prayer you've been waiting for. My name's Ariana, and I'm a former teacher turned work-at-home mom who replaced my teaching income as a virtual assistant in just 6 months. I did this by taking a step of faith and following the dream that God placed on my heart to be home with my babies. Sister, your dreams pale in comparison to God's dreams for you. Imagine offering services that light you up and having a job that works around your life and not the other way around. This is the podcast for you. It's time to take that first step out of teaching. Are you ready? Here we go.
Hey friend, do you find yourself coming up with all sorts of reasons why you're having difficulty quitting teaching and becoming a virtual assistant? Maybe you're disguising your excuses as obstacles. Either way, they impact your ability to show up and grow your virtual assistant business God's way. But the good news is that you can easily break free from them. In today's episode, I'm going to outline the 3 main excuses I hear and some simple tips for breaking free from them. Firstly, please take this with a grain of salt. This might hit a nerve, but please do not get angry with me. The reality is that every one of these excuses has some truth to it. Believe me, I know. But some of these excuses are just that, excuses. And until we're ready and willing to look at them and discern if they're excuses or realities in our lives, we can't make any changes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, thinking that something is going to change. That's just not where we need to be. I believe that God has led you to this podcast for a reason, and I know that you have this incredible calling on your life and these incredible giftings on purpose, and that God has this amazing place He is trying to bring you. So, we have to blast through these excuses once and for all. Excuse number 1 to blast through and start growing your virtual assistant business is, I don't have the time. Now, I've definitely been in situations where I had limited time or in seasons where I had less time than normal, aka having a newborn. But saying I don't have time is not true, and it's an excuse. We have to know exactly what time you have and eliminate all the time wasters from your schedule once and for all. If you're saying to yourself, I do not have time to learn how to become a virtual assistant to take those steps toward being able to quit teaching, here are a few tips for you. First, I want you to get out a sheet of paper and write down why you believe you have no time. Next, I want you to look at that sheet of paper and then pray and ask God to reveal to you the truth about time in your life. On the other side of the paper, I want you to write down all the things you do every day that are not God-centered or are time wasters. Then, ask yourself how you can eliminate or get rid of them. During this process, I want you to be honest with yourself about what you actually don't need to be doing. I'm sure there's so many things in my life I don't need to be doing. Okay? Finally, I want you to put a time frame next to each of the things you wrote down in the previous step. I want you to assign a specific time each week that you're going to get those things done. Plug them into your planner so you know when they're happening and you can see when you have free space. Once your planner's filled out, you're going to be able to see exactly where you have time to dedicate to your journey to quit teaching. If you don't call yourself out, who is going to call you out? If you don't change your behavior, nobody else is going to do it for you. No one else is going to force you to change the way that you spend your time. You are the only person in control of your daily activities. So you have to set those boundaries for yourself, beginning with identifying what your reality really is. So for example, I did this a few years ago and I said I had no time. But when I prayed to the Lord and started working on why I thought this was true, I realized it was because I spent way too much time scrolling social media, figuring out food for the week, and watching TV. I figured out that I would have an additional 5 hours per week just by reducing my scrolling time. How much extra time can you find in your week to put towards becoming a virtual assistant so you can quit teaching? Is this an excuse or is this an obstacle? If it's a reality that you actually have no time, then okay, I get it. In that situation, it's not an excuse, it's an obstacle. With every excuse, we have to discern if it's truly an excuse or if it's an obstacle. And if it is an obstacle, how are you going to overcome it? Every single problem has a solution, and it is your job to find it. Okay, so excuse number 2, keeping you from quitting teaching and becoming a virtual assistant, is I'm afraid. I hear this excuse regularly. I'm afraid, or I'm scared. You know what this means for you. Maybe you're scared of judgment, failure, not doing something right. There's so much fear going on in today's world, and I just want you to understand that fear is not something we're called to lean into as Christians. We are told that fear is a liar, and we are to fear not. Instead, we're to lean on God and have confidence. So if this is you, I want you to go to Scripture or Google and look up scriptures for fear, scriptures for when you're afraid, and scriptures for when you're afraid of judgment. I want you to write these scriptures down and then turn it into a God says statement. So, for example, let's do Deuteronomy 31, verse 6. Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid, for the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. So when I turn this into a God says statement, it might be, God says, I am strong and I am courageous. God says, do not fear or be afraid. He's telling me He is with me right now and will not leave or forsake me. It might seem kind of harsh to y'all to say that fear is an excuse, but it totally is. You have to push through your fear. There was not a time when I started something new that I was not afraid. There was never, ever a moment when God called me to do something and I said, this is going to be easy and comfortable. I'm not worried what people are going to think of me. Quitting teaching and pursuing something new takes courage, and you cannot let fear prevent you from living out the calling that God has over your life. I have been terrified so many times in my life and business, but that is the whole point. We have to step into our fear by faith so that we can lean on God. That's it. You clutching your fear is actually you not surrendering in trust to where God's trying to take you. It is time to release that fear because fear is not from God. It should not have a home in your life, in your mind, in your heart, or anywhere near you. Excuse number 3 stopping you from quitting teaching and becoming a virtual assistant is I don't know how. Sometimes this can look like perfectionism or overanalysis, or you might just be frozen. I don't know how, so I'm going to do nothing. This is absolutely an excuse. Everyone who has done something incredible in this world did not know how. When I quit teaching, I didn't know how to do the different virtual assistant services. But guess what? I pushed through the I don't know how and I figured it out. One thing I have learned, which is insanely valuable, is that instead of trying to figure things out that I didn't know how to do on Google, I instead invested in the person or program that does know how. Find someone who knows what you don't, that you trust, and follow in their footsteps so you don't have to make the same mistakes that they did. Do not be afraid to invest in learning. Every time I've been willing to let go of money and allowed that money to help me grow and learn, it has come back tenfold. The ROI of every dollar I've spent learning something new, learning the how, has been exponentially returned in so many incredible ways. I do realize that it takes a minute to have some finances to invest in yourself, but I invested in myself long before the money was comfortable and we were in a place to do that. Every time I've come up against a roadblock and had to decide whether to invest in something to help me, I knew that I needed to do it and that if I did it myself, it was going to take me way too long, be super messy, or I was just going to stay stuck for far too long and end up giving up. If you don't know how you can afford to learn how to do something, ask God how and get resourceful. If not knowing how is keeping you from not moving forward, ask yourself, Lord, where is my how? No, don't ask yourself, ask God, where is my how? And then get resourceful. Get on the internet, look it up. No matter where you are, there is a how for you. If you're wondering how to become a virtual assistant, I've got that program for you. I've got the Teacher Turned Virtual Assistant program. It will teach you everything you know. It'll teach you the different services that you can offer as a virtual assistant. It will teach you how to find potential clients, how to communicate with them, how to send contracts and invoices. I've literally got the templates for you for all of that. You can plug and play your info. Makes it so easy for you. So if you're ready for the Teacher Turned Virtual Assistant program, go check that out at teacherturnedvirtualassistant.com and you can get registered there. And if it's not the time for you to invest in anything right now, if that's you, there is a how on this podcast. If it has anything to do with quitting teaching and becoming a virtual assistant, your how has been answered here. We have over 200 episodes. Your how is answered here. We also have a free catalog of all of the podcast episodes, which I have linked in our Facebook community so that you can search for the solution you need by different keywords. Y'all, not knowing how is just another lie from the enemy trying to keep you small. It's trying to keep you from pushing forward. It is time to go. Bust through these excuses. Let God and His Word drive away your fears, talk to you about your time and priorities, and guide you on how to do it. Quitting teaching and becoming a virtual assistant is possible if you have the courage to say no to these excuses. You are called, and it is time to step into your calling and prove that anything is possible with God by your side.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I'd love to bless you with a free gift as a thank you. All you have to do is leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts, take a screenshot, and send it to podcast@ditchtheclassroom.com. I'll send you a code so you can snag my Ditch the Classroom toolkit for free. And don't forget to come hang out with us in our free community, facebook.com/groups/Ditch the Classroom. I'm so honored to support you in your journey to becoming a virtual assistant. Until next week, y'all, keep following the dreams that were placed on your heart so you too can ditch the classroom.